Welcome to the Rusted Garden. This video is about 15 tips for growing tomatoes so that you can have a more successful tomato garden. Tip number 1, stagger the plantings of your transplants or putting seeds out in the ground. This tomato plant, I'm in Maryland Zone 7, actually went out in April, and you can see that it's producing and there's tomatoes ready to be picked now. Come May, I put some seeds down, I put some transplants out. Come June, I put out more tomato plants. Stagger the planting times so that you don't get all your tomatoes at once. You're just not going to be able to eat them all, as fun as it is. You're not going to have enough friends to give them to. And you can see that I've staggered these plants so that I'm getting tomatoes right now, middle of July, and they will continue to grow and produce longer over the season. So I'll be getting tomatoes well into September. These are some indeterminate varieties that I think went in actually as transplants on June 16th. They're only about 3 feet tall. The plants over here went into the ground in May. You can see lots of green tomatoes on there, and they're starting to turn in some situations. And then coming over here, I even dropped some in as transplants on 7/12. So stagger the planting of your tomatoes, tip number 1. Tip number 2, there are 2 kinds of tomato plants. The plants that I just showed you were mostly indeterminate tomatoes, and that means they will continue to grow for the entire season until frost comes or disease takes them or I remove them from the ground. The indeterminate varieties continue to grow. They can get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 feet tall, and they continually produce tomatoes. Now you have determinate variety tomatoes, which are what I grow mostly in containers. A determinate variety tomato will get to a set height, 3 feet, 4 feet, sometimes 5 feet. It will flower and it will set fruit over a period, and then the plant dies off. So there's 2 different kinds, the indeterminate and the determinate. The determinate tomatoes are great for containers. Let me just show you an example. This is a Bradley tomato. It went in the ground about April 28th as a transplant. It's got nice fruit on there and it's starting to die off. So identify what you're growing. If you're growing determinate varieties, realize they're only going to get to a set height and then they're going to die off. Your indeterminates will get bigger. Tip number 2, 2 types of tomatoes. Tip number 3, container size and container mix really matters. For tomatoes, determinate or indeterminate, you really want to start them at a minimum a 5-gallon size container. That's a 5-gallon container, the gray one. If you go smaller than that, you're going to have a hard time growing your tomatoes to size, and it's really hard to feed them and keep them watered, especially when it gets hot. The terracotta color back there, that's about a 7-gallon container. The red one is about 10 gallons, and the larger red one in the back is a 12-gallon tomato. I have an indeterminate cherry growing in there, so I wanted a larger container. So pay attention to the size of the container based on the size of the tomato plant you're going to grow. Now you can grow dwarf plants, I'll show you those too, and they can be grown in actually flower boxes. Tip number 4, pruning. Now I'm not going to talk about pruning out the main body of your plant, that's more of an art and you can find that in different videos, but you definitely want to prune as your plant grows. Take some leaves from the bottom so that you create a nice gap between the soil and the upper leaves. That stops soil splash from happening, where you can have disease splash up onto your leaves. It also lets air circulate through, and that really helps prevent diseases from setting in, especially if your area gets hot and humid. So tip number 4, prune out the bottom. Do it slowly, don't shock the plant, but when they get to about this size, probably approaching 4 feet, you want to have somewhere between 10 and 12 inches pruned out from the bottom. Tip number 5, mulch your garden beds. You can see that cracking. This is because I have heavy clay soil, and when the heat comes and the water starts to dry, my ground cracks. Now this is one of my last beds that I put in, so it's still getting more organic matter. As you move over here, you can see this bed's not cracking as badly. It's because it's got more organic matter in there. But the way you can really stop that from happening, conserve water, and again, I was just talking about disease splashing up from the ground onto the leaves, put down some mulch. Because when you put down mulch, it really creates a barrier where the soil stays nice and moist, and it makes a big difference. It also stops disease from splashing up onto your plants. Now, of course, this is a pepper plant, but the idea is the same. Come right over here to my early girl. You can see that I mulch in there, and it's still nice and moist compared to those other examples I gave you. Tip number 6, diseases will come regularly into your area, and most zones have the same diseases show up. This is a leaf spot on here, for instance, and you can tell by the black spots and the yellow around there. Keep a journal. Mark down when diseases show up in your area, and you want to spray them to prevent it. So mark down when your diseases show up. Check out online to try and find out when the diseases come. And then go ahead and start spraying 2 to 4 weeks before they normally arrive in your area, and that will really go a long way in stopping fungal diseases from getting hold of your tomato plants. Tip number 6. Tip number 7, we're going back to spraying. Always test spray. Never just go and spray all your tomato plants with a new spray you learned about online or bought in a store. When you spray a mix at 70 degrees, 80 degrees, it may not affect your plants. When you spray that mix at 90 degrees or higher, it may damage your plant. So temperature matters. So you want to test spray all new sprays, and you want to be aware of the temperature, because as it gets warmer, those sprays that didn't hurt your plants could hurt your plants. Also, it's important, again, like I said, to test spray and keep track. So I just started using a sulfur spray again. That's 3 tablespoons of micronized wettable sulfur into 1 gallon of water. I sprayed this entire plant down. It's been a week now. You want to wait at least 48 hours and keep track of the plants you spray with your new sprays. If everything is fine, go ahead and spray the rest of your plants. Tomatoes are vines, so you want to stake them. You want to train them to grow upwards. It really helps manage disease, pests, and then the general size of your plants. Straight back there, I've got the standard tomato cages, and they're growing through the cage. You just drop that around the plant when you drop your seed or your transplant. Tomato cages look just like this. That's what I'm growing watermelons up. You can use stakes. These are 3-foot stakes right now, temporarily supporting this plant. I will drop in a bigger one. Here are a couple other examples you can use. You don't have to use the standard cage that I just showed you. You can go online and look at different garden shops, and that's a pretty cool cage. I've had this for about 10 years. Don't remember where I got it, but it's an awesome cage for tomatoes. And then these are 8-foot poles that I get at Home Depot, and they're perfect for your indeterminate type tomatoes. And remember, again, tomatoes are vines. Don't let them sprawl around on the ground. By staking them up, you help manage the size of the plant and help manage pests and disease. Tip number 10, how to use Epsom salt in your garden. Now, there's 2 levels of nutrients really. We'll get to the macronutrients in a second, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And then you have the micronutrients, which are magnesium, sulfur, and calcium. Micro being the key word. Epsom salt provides magnesium sulfate, magnesium, and sulfur, a micronutrient. Do not overuse it. There's no need to overuse it. You put in 1 to 2 tablespoons per gallon of water, and I recommend only using Epsom salt when you transplant your plant or when it's about a foot high, and then again around this time when it's producing fruit. You water it in real quickly. That's about all you really need. Do it once again when you put in your transplant or the plant's about 1 foot tall, and again at the time where it's beginning to develop the green fruit. Do not overuse it. Epsom salt is a chemical salt. It's in a category called salts, like table salt. Too much can damage your plants, and they just don't need all of it. Tip number 11, there's basically 2 kinds of fertilizers. There's insoluble, which is usually your granular type, and there's soluble, which is usually what you mix in with water. It's water soluble. It mixes readily into the water, gets dispersed through, and being a soluble fertilizer, your plant can absorb the nutrients right away. The insoluble are usually the granular types, which are like bone meal, blood meal, mixes, all that kind of stuff, and that has to go into the ground. Soil life biology has to break it down and turn it into a usable form. So insoluble granular types are more slow release, longer lasting, and your soluble are fast acting, quicker release. And you want to really use both in your garden. You want to set your plants up at planting with some insoluble fertilizer, mix it into the planting hole, and that will break down over time. And then you want to feed them on a schedule every 10 to 14 days, a water soluble fertilizer of your choice. And that just keeps the plant healthy and going through the season. Now, in containers, you probably will need more fertilizers. In the ground, you will need less. Okay, tip number 12, and this is usually a sensitive subject for people, so just hear me out. Everything on the planet is a chemical. Everything. You, me, organic fertilizers, the chemical fertilizers, everything. Everything is a chemical. Chemicals are not bad. What's the difference? Organic fertilizers are natural, usually broken down by soil life. Feed the soil, feed your plants. Chemical fertilizers, like this for example, is not synthetic or fake or unreal or harmful. It will not harm you. It will not harm your plants. It's synthesized. Synthesized as in not being fake, but created by a process from a person, and you end up with a synthetic fertilizer. It went through a process or a synthesis. There's no need to use the chemical fertilizers every single day. You don't have to use them at all if you don't want to. But I just want you to be aware that if you do, you want to make sure you bring these numbers down. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, we'll talk about that shortly, down to as close as you can get to a 5.55. You just don't need that much. So you would use this at quarter strength or half strength and just bring it down. And you may only need to use it for an emergency. If your plants are hit by a disease or hit by insects or they're damaged from a storm, you may want something like this to get them growing and get them going more quickly, and then you can switch back to your organics. I'm 90% organic. Every once in a while I use the synthesized or chemical fertilizers. They are not poisonous. They do not hurt you. If you use this on a grand farming scale, day after day after day after day, you don't add in organic products, you don't add in compost, you don't take care of your garden, you can cause a problem. But these are also chemical salts, just like your Epsom salt, which is considered organic. If you overuse the salts, you're going to cause a problem. Tomato tip 12. What do these numbers mean? 3, 4, 6. This is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, N, P, and K. N, P, and K, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are your macronutrients. That's what your plants really need to grow. I recommend trying to keep this number around a 5.55 if possible. We just don't need as much fertilizer as we're told, and I've been using less every year, and I try and actually use now more worm castings and compost. Compost, by the way, is well under a 111 N, P, and K. Now, you might notice the nitrogen is lower here. It's a 3. You don't want to give your vegetables, specifically tomato plants, lots of nitrogen. Like, you don't want that number of 10, 12, 15, 20 nitrogen, because you're going to grow wonderful green leaves. The plant's going to look great, but it's going to be weak. It's going to have very thin leaves. It's going to be more susceptible to disease and to pests. So again, try and stay around a 5.55. Once your tomato flowers and it's starting to produce fruit, if you can change your fertilizer to a number that has a higher potassium and a higher phosphorus, that will benefit your plants. Potassium and phosphorus in general help with flowering and help with fruit production. But again, you want to make sure you try and stay around a 5.55 N, P, and K. Don't go too high on the nitrogen. You'll end up with great green plants, but they're not going to be as healthy. Here's a quick bonus tip, maybe tip number 16, but I noticed when I did the video, I think I went back to back with 2 tips. Anyway, we got 15 or 16. If you don't have room for tomatoes, you can get dwarf varieties. That's a tiny Tim. Determinate variety gets to a height of about 10 or 12 inches, sets a lot of fruit. This is a Hans Gelba, even shorter, 6 to 8 inches. Lots of cherry tomatoes on there. So you can look for dwarf varieties if you want to grow tomatoes and you just don't have a lot of space. Once these die out, you can have more transplants ready to go in, and you can really keep these going for an entire season, I think. Tip number 13, container mix. It's really important that your container mix contain at least 50% organic matter that holds water. And that's typically peat moss or cocoa coir or a combination of both. You do want to invest in a quality container mix. You don't want a container mix that has a lot of wood particles in there. You want peat moss or potassium. I have plenty of videos that show you how to make it. You can check those out. I will link some of them in here. But you want the container mix, again, to be able to hold at least, or you want the container mix to be at least 50% peat moss, cocoa coir, or combination, so it holds water. Come middle July, especially Maryland Zone 7 and other hot areas, once it gets hot, you may have to water your container plants every day. And the more organic matter you have in there to hold water, the better off your plants will be and the better they will grow and survive. Tip number 14. What's a hybrid? What's an heirloom tomato? How do you save seeds? In short, a heirloom tomato is a tomato variety that if you save the seeds from the tomato, you will get a tomato plant exactly true to the tomato that you saved the seeds from. And typically the books say anywhere from, if the tomato's been around 50 years, 75 years, 100 years, they consider it an heirloom. But again, those type of tomatoes, if you save the seed, you get the exact same tomato from which you save the seed. And this is my Aussie black cherry. What do I got back there? Matt's wild cherry. Those are all true to form, which means if I save the seeds, I'm going to get the exact same plant. Now, if you go over to a hybrid, this is a green diamond over there and a sensation. These are hybrid tomatoes. That means somebody spent a lot of time crossing two tomato plants together. If you save the seeds from a hybrid tomato, you're not going to get a tomato true to the seeds that you saved. I hope that makes sense. Because a hybrid is a cross and it's not a stable cross. You may save the seeds like from an early girl thinking you're going to get an early girl, but you get characteristics from one of the parent plants. So hybrid seeds in general, if you save those seeds, you don't get a plant true to form. The heirlooms or the stable cultivars, if you save those seeds, you will get the exact same plant. And you can check out my videos on how to save tomato seeds. And tip number 15, don't overlove your plants and keep a schedule. Your plants need a lot less love and feeding than you might think, and sometimes we can overfeed them, give them too much, and the symptoms that occur from overfeeding can mimic symptoms for when a plant doesn't have enough of your macronutrients, N, P, and K, even your micronutrients, and then we panic and we give them more and we overlove our plants to death. So the best way to manage that is to keep a schedule, keep a routine. Know when you're going to use your insoluble granular type organic fertilizers. Know when you're going to water them with your soluble fertilizers. Do that on a routine and do the same thing for your sprays. If you're using the new sprays, I just want to say real quick again, always test spray, but always keep a routine or keep a schedule of when you spray and stick to that routine through the whole season. You might think you can remember, but you know, a week later, we tend to forget things. Hope you enjoyed the video. This gives you 15 quick tips on how you can have a better tomato garden. I will link the blog article I did for this to the video, so if you want to read more on it, you can check that out. Thanks for watching, and please check out my seed shop at www.therustedgarden.com. Thanks for watching.